In the ashes of the Great War, a lone city stands amongst the boneyards that litter the wasteland. Ivory towers gleam like jewels in the sand, their neon lights untouched by the fires of destruction. In the smoldering ruins, civilization was reborn. Like the great phoenix of legend, it rose in the desolation of a once thriving metropolis. The survivors of this devastation forming into tribes, offering each other protection from the hostilities of their new world. Meanwhile, the cogs of change press ever forward, and so too does the Mojave Wasteland. This is the tale of the three families, those who met the call of their savior and kingpin of the New Vegas Strip, and rose to become the most powerful and influential families in the city of New Vegas. Now, dear legionaries, welcome to the Wasteland, to the Wasteland, to the Wasteland, to the Wasteland, to the Wasteland. After the Great War of 2077, the city of New Vegas existed merely as a ruin, a relic of the old world. What was once a thriving tourist trap and the pinnacle of America's greed, hubris, corruption, and iniquity, now a carcass, to be picked over by the parasites that call these bones home. Amongst the skeleton exist several groups of tribals, some having been there since the bombs first fell on the fateful morning of the Great War, and others having moved in from the surrounding wasteland, hoping to lay a claim of their own. In the year 2138, the Patriarch of New Vegas awoke from a decades-long coma, only to find the wasteland empty. There were plenty of raiders and tribals, however, no true civilization to speak of, not in the way he envisioned it, that is. This would all change, however, when one of Mr. House's Securitrons encountered NCR scouts at Hoover Dam in the year 2274. Upon the discovery of a true post-war state, just beyond his horizons, Mr. House would set in motion his plan to recreate the New Vegas Strip, setting forth the series of events that created the three families. Securitrons soon departed the Lucky 38 to make first contact with the myriad of tribes groveling amidst the ruins. Before the return of House, the territory of New Vegas was home to many tribes, the most notable colloquially known as the Slitherkin, Mojave Boot Riders, the Great Khans, and two more whose moniker has been forgotten to time, save for Mr. House, who never has, and probably never will, divulge them. Securitrons would soon make contact with these tribes, one by one, offering them an ultimatum. End the conflicts with the other tribes in the area and reform under the rule of Mr. House in order to help him breathe life back into the Strip, forging New Vegas into the center of profits and commerce it once was, or leave the Strip entirely, lest he remove you by force. In the end, 3 would accept the deal, and 2 would refuse it, forging the power balance that dictated the future of the Mojave. Those who accepted the deal were given their own casinos, weapons, ammunition, and medicine, and anything else they would need to transition from squabbling tribals to a profitable and sustainable organization. The first tribe to receive an offer would be the Mojave Boot Riders, a nomadic tribe inhabiting the ruins of the Mojave. While most of the other tribes were located in the heart of Vegas, the Boot Riders were spread throughout the Mojave, following the ebb and flow of the shifting sands. On a fateful day, just east of Vegas, the group was approached by one of House's Securitrons, bringing forth with it an offer. The tribe wasn't too keen about having this robot approach them, however, and swiftly reduced it to scrap in a minute flat. House would not take this hostility lying down, however, and on the following day, he dispatched 20 more Securitrons to surround the tribe, forcing them into negotiation. The tribe listened to what House had to offer them, and reluctantly agreed to House's proposal. However, the deal wasn't immediately accepted by all members of the Boot Riders, and conflict arose between their current leader Bingo and a Boot Rider named Benny, following the negotiations. Bingo sought to keep the Boot Riders independent and nomadic, and thus was against the deal with Mr. House. Benny, on the other hand, saw things a bit different. Where Bingo saw entrapment and servitude, Benny saw opportunity, the potential to garner power and influence, to leave the life of a tribal in the past, to run the Mojave as he saw fit. The disagreement would eventually lead the two to confrontation that would determine the fate of the tribe. It didn't take long before Bingo challenged Benny to a ritual knife fight, which was the traditional way of settling disputes of such magnitude in the Boot Riders. Benny accepted the challenge, and 3 days after the deal was proposed by Mr. House, the Mojave Boot Riders would provide an answer to House's proposal. Bingo felt confident in his victory, as he was physically the strongest in the tribe. However, what he possessed in strength, he lacked in speed, which would ultimately lead to his undoing. Shortly after the knife fight commenced, Benny was able to outmaneuver the mountain of a man and plunged his knife deep into Bingo's neck, killing him instantly. With their former leader dead and the winner determined, Benny would go on to become the new leader of the Mojave Boot Riders, and as chieftain, would announce his first motion. The Mojave Boot Riders would accept Mr. House's arrangement, becoming the first of the 3 families of the new Vegas Strip. Upon agreeing to House's terms, the Boot Riders would be gifted the Tops Hotel and Casino, as well as a whole new identity. Shortly after relocating to the Strip, Securitrons would arrive at the casino to deliver the Boot Riders a variety of boxes containing within them suits, ties, and wingtip shoes, as well as instructions that they were now to be known as the Chairman, and don these new outfits as part of the deal. The tribe, still attached to their old ways and tribal identity, roared in protest, but were quickly silenced when Benny stepped in, flexing his newfound authority over the tribe. The Boot Riders finally all fell in line, tossing aside their gecko skin cloaks and pointy sticks to swing with the big boys in style. The second of these tribes, the Slitherkin, were largely nomadic, much like the Mojave Boot Riders. However, unlike the Boot Riders, the Slitherkin were known for their sadism and shady, underhanded practices. They made a habit of luring unsuspecting travelers into their camps, drugging them, and then enslaving them, taking great pride in their manipulation. Sometimes this wasn't enough, however, and the Slitherkin would opt to torture their victims, even going as far as ending their life. The viciousness of this shady and power-hungry tribe appealed to Mr. House, fondly reminding him of the old world mafia that once operated the underground of Las Vegas. The Slitherkin, like the Boot Riders before them, would soon be approached by a Securitron with the same deal. The arrangement proposed by Mr. House had appealed highly to the Slitherkin, whose hunger for power would see them accept with minimal to no internal pushback. Upon accepting the deal, the Slitherkin were gifted Gomorrah, the casino themed around vice and sin. Casting aside their previous tribal identities, they adopted the new identity of Omertas, changing their wardrobe and vernacular to that of an old world mafioso, ultimately becoming and reintroducing the organized criminal element back into the streets of the Vegas Strip. Rumors made their way to many wastelanders, hushed tales of a tribe that reside in deep underground caverns near the once great city of Las Vegas, preying on those above, trapping their fellow man and dragging them deep into the cave below to butcher and feast on their carcass. This next tribe to be offered a deal was largely unknown, save that they were cannibals. Like the tribes before them, they were approached by a Securitron and offered the same deal. The majority of the specifics involving this encounter were never mentioned by Mr. House, except that he entered into a binding contract with them. The contract stated that they would revoke their cannibalism entirely to work with House, and in return, their tribal identity would be kept a secret from all those with prying eyes. The tribe agreed, and were gifted the Ultra-Luxe Casino, as well as a whole new identity, known to us as the White Glove Society. It's not clear what Mr. House saw in this unsavory bunch, or why he would seek to employ them out of anything but desperation. Perhaps he saw something in pre-war high society akin to this group of cannibals. Or perhaps the tribe was more redeemable than previously believed. In any event, the Beau Monde returned to Vegas, providing a home for tourists with a finer taste in things. During this time, a fourth tribe living on the outskirts of the Strip had also been contacted. This unknown tribe, for one reason or another, refused House's offer, and were promptly barred from the Strip, forcing them into what is now known as Freeside. It was in this area that a young scavenger would stumble across an old-world building, seemingly dedicated to the worship of an ancient deity, whose considerable style and singing ability had encouraged such reverence. Divinely inspired by this man of the old world, the scavenger would return to his tribe with a new identity himself, as well as a new philosophy on respect and personal freedom. Dejected after their eviction by Mr. House, the tribe clung on to this new philosophy, having found themselves in awe of the glory of this old world deity. The tribe would soon cast aside their previous identity, adopting the title of Kings and moving into the King's School of Impersonation under the leadership of the young scavenger, now known simply as the King. The Kings would make Freeside their own, taking it upon themselves to protect and provide for the locals in the coming years. The last and final tribe were that of the Great Khans. It's unclear if they were ever contacted by House with a deal, but if they were, then they had definitely refused it. With their large numbers and aggressive approach, the Great Khans would find themselves at war with the newly formed families of the Strip, specifically the Omertas. The better weapons and surge of ammunition that was gifted to the families by House had allowed them to not only stand against the might of the Great Khans, but batter them in open battle. Outmanned and outgunned, the Khans would quickly find themselves on the losing end of the war, and were promptly forced out of the city and into northern Vegas. Continued hostilities with the families eventually saw the Great Khans pushed out of Vegas entirely, forcing them to settle at Bitter Springs, just east of the city of Vegas. And here they would stay, until their next encounter with the NCR. With the hostilities between the tribes of Vegas brought to a close, and the revamping of the Strip to its former glory, the three families rested and began to settle into their new lives, opening up their casinos to patrons from all over the wastes, especially those coming from the NCR. Money flowed into Vegas like a tsunami, stacking the deck for House's next move, and within the lucky 38, House patiently awaited for the final chip to enter play. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all of you who voted in the poll for this video, as it was a blast to create. I also want to give a huge thank you to all of my subscribers for supporting the channel and the content. It really does mean the world to me. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe to the channel so you can be part of our wonderful community. Lastly, if you want to support the channel further, leave me a super chat, become a channel member, or pick up a unique piece of merchandise from the TheNeoCypher store. You can also share pictures of you and your new merch with me on Instagram. I would love to see them. Links will be in the description below. Thank you again for watching, and until we meet next, Wale Amicus.